Imagine this. What if you could boil down an entire economy, all its factories, workers, and products, into one simple formula? Well, in 1928, an economist and a mathematician did just that. They teamed up to crack a puzzle that had stumped folks for decades, and in doing so, they gave economics a whole new language to speak: math. So the question they were wrestling with was, a huge one. What's the exact recipe for an economy? If you throw in more workers or you build more factories, how much more stuff do you actually get? It sounds simple, right? But for the longest time, nobody had a clue. Okay, so everybody knew the two big ingredients. Labor, that's the people doing the work, and capital, the machines, the tools, the buildings. But the proportions, that was the tricky part. How much did each one really contribute? Which one mattered more? The exact recipe was a total mystery. So the guy who really got obsessed with this mystery was an economist named Cobb-Douglas. He started digging through decades of data on American manufacturing, and he noticed something really weird, a pattern that just refused to change. And here's what he found. Between 1899 and 1922, and you gotta remember, this was a period of massive industrial change, of huge upheaval. The share of all the money made that went to labor consistently hovered right around 75%. And the other 25%, that went to the owners of capital. Year after year, through booms and busts, this 3-to-1 split held firm. The question was, why? To solve this mystery, Douglas teamed up with a mathematician, Charles Cobb. But before they could even think about writing an equation, they had to do something absolutely monumental. They had to build a data set that literally didn't exist yet.
I mean, think about it. This was data science back in the 1920s. To measure the growth of capital, they couldn't just, download a spreadsheet. No way. They had to manually track the raw materials used to build all the factories and machines. We're talking steel, lumber, cement, creating their very own index for capital completely from scratch.
And all that painstaking work uncovered something huge. Over those 23 years, the labor force grew by 61%. Okay, but the amount of capital, all those machines and buildings, grew by a mind-blowing 331%. Yeah, more than 5 times faster than the workforce. This was a massive clue. So, armed with all this brand new data, Cobb and Douglas could finally start the real hunt. They were looking for the underlying mathematical rule, a formula that could take their numbers for labor and capital and accurately predict the total amount of production. They came up with a formula, what economists now call a production function. Just think of it like a recipe. It says your total production, P, comes from your labor, L, and your capital, C. But here's the trick. It's not just L plus C. The power of each ingredient is shown by an exponent, which they called K. Suddenly, this whole giant economic mystery boiled down to finding just one number. What is K? So they crunched the numbers, they ran the data, and out popped the answer. The best fit for K was 3/4, or 0.75. And that number, that exponent attached to labor, was basically its power rating in the whole production process. And of course, if labor's exponent is 3/4, then capital's has to be 1/4. And bam, that's the moment it all clicked. That stubborn 75-25 split Douglas saw in the real world, it wasn't random. It looked like it was hardwired right into the math of the economy itself. And this is it, the big reveal, the final equation. Predicted production equals 1.01 times labor to the power of 3/4 times capital to the power of 1/4. They'd done it. They'd found this beautiful, elegant mathematical answer to a puzzle that had been bugging economists for decades. Okay, but look, having a beautiful theory is one thing. The real test, the only test that matters, is whether it actually works in the real world. They had to see if their formula could predict what had already happened in the American economy. So, here's the million-dollar question. If we take the actual amount of labor and capital for every single year from 1899 to 1922 and plug them into our shiny new formula, how close will our answer be to what really happened? And the results were just stunning. I mean, look at this table from their paper. In 1899, their formula predicted an output of 101. The real number was 100, almost perfect. In 1909, it was a dead-on match, 155. This wasn't just some abstract theory anymore. It was tracking reality with jaw-dropping accuracy. Okay, get this. The final number, the statistical correlation between their formula and reality, was plus 0.97. Now, to put that in perspective, in the messy, complicated world of economics, a correlation that high is, well, it's practically a perfect score. It's almost unheard of. This was the smoking gun. Their formula worked. So, what did this all actually mean? The Cobb-Douglas function wasn't just some cool math trick. It was the first time anyone had hard, mathematical proof for some of the biggest ideas in economics. First, it was proof of the law of diminishing returns. If you have 1,000 workers in a factory with only 10 machines, that last worker isn't going to help much. Second, those exponents, 3/4 and 1/4, they revealed something huge about the economy back then. A 1% bump in labor had 3 times the impact on output as a 1% bump in capital. And third, and this is the really controversial one, it suggested that the 75-25 income split wasn't just random. It seemed to perfectly mirror how much each group was actually contributing to production. Yeah, that last point was a big deal. You can see how it could easily sound like the math was saying the system was fair, a justification for how wealth was distributed. But Douglas himself was super careful to draw a very bright line between the math and, the morality of it all. He put this incredibly powerful disclaimer right there in the paper. He said, "For while capital may be productive, it does not follow that the capitalist always is." He was basically arguing that you can accept the math, that a machine is productive, without having to endorse the social system. The productivity of the tool doesn't automatically justify the income of its owner. And really, that's the thing to remember here. Cobb and Douglas didn't prove the system was fair. What they did was create an incredibly powerful and, importantly, a neutral tool. A socialist planner trying to boost an economy or a Wall Street investor looking for the best returns could use the exact same formula to figure out how things work. So in the end, what Cobb and Douglas really gave us was, in their own words, a method of attack. They didn't just solve one puzzle from the 1920s, they built a fundamental tool that economists still use today to understand what makes nations grow. But they also left us with this huge question we're still wrestling with. Just because we can describe the economy with a formula, does that automatically mean the outcome is fair?